and welcome to Video Game Leftovers by VGFacts, a show where we explore game data and promotional material to reveal content that was cut from games. Today we'll be showing you some of the leftovers from Fallout 2, the sequel to the 1997 cult classic, Fallout. Released in 1998, only 1 year after the first game, Fallout 2 expanded on the groundwork that had been laid out before it. It had a bigger world, bigger story, bigger freedom, and bigger guns. Early on in development, the storyline changed wildly. The first concept revolved around a town populated by robots inspired by 50s and 60s TV shows. It was also created by an artificial intelligence, and all the surrounding areas were competing for control over the town's technology. The second storyline saw the army of super mutants from the first game traveling the wasteland in a huge armored land fortress, capturing other mutants to use as slave labor. Eventually, the design was nailed down, and neither of these ideas came to be. The final story is one that gamers have played through countless times over the years, and to this day, Fallout 2 is still regarded as one of the best role-playing games ever made. Fallout 2 is a big game, and with any big game, there are areas that don't make it into the finished product. Fallout 2 is no exception to this. One of the game's removed areas is the Abbey, which was home to a group of monks who hoarded pre-war technology. This is mentioned by Tim Kaine in the 6th edition of the Fallout Bible. Kaine said, "It was supposed to be an independent organization, probably of Jesuits or something like that. I'd probably go with the latter to avoid right-wing complaints. The monks preserved knowledge in the form of books, blueprints, and items, and they tried to preserve technical knowledge mainly. Unlike the Brotherhood of Steel, who hoarded their technology and used it to stay superior, the Abbey was open to anyone as long as they did not damage anything. All they had to offer was knowledge, because not a single preserved item functioned. One more thing, the monks did not understand the knowledge in the books they preserved. They treated them like holy materials to be read and copied and cared for, but not acted upon. Think of the book A Canticle for Leibowitz by Walter M. Miller, which was the inspiration for the Abbey." Another of the more interesting cut areas was the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, building, which at one point was intended to be a rather major part of the game. The building included areas such as a parking lot turned jungle that was filled with spore plants, a petting zoo filled with starving humans, and various color-coded sublevels full of poisonous gases and mutant fruit flies. There was also a selection of special items that were supposed to be found in this area. This included a bug spray canister which killed all bugs instantly, a plant spray canister that did the same for plants, marijuana, and a can of dog food. Also cut was a packet of Pop Rocks, which if eaten with Nuka-Cola would make your character explode. There were also a handful of custodial hologram NPCs, along with a talking toaster with an IQ of 6,000 that was obsessed with making toast. This toaster is a reference to both The Brave Little Toaster by Thomas M. Dish and Talkie Toaster from the British TV series Red Dwarf. Red Dwarf's AI, Holly, also originally had an IQ of 6,000. At one point in development, you were supposed to be able to get inside the USS Quetzal, a space shuttle belonging to the Hubologists. Unfortunately, all that remains of that map is a room made up of unused art tiles. Speaking of the Hubologists, during development they were actually known as Elronologists. Everyone involved in the development process insists that any relation to real-world persons and organizations, like Scientologists, is purely coincidental. To quote Fallout 2 designer Chris Avallone, "You might think that the Elronologists were the original name for the Hubologists, but any relationship between the groups is purely coincidental." There had also been plans for more FMVs to play during the game, including the first time you get access to the car. For that FMV in particular, technical designer for Fallout 2, Scott Edwards, explained, "As I remember, the car.mve was actually done, but turned out so bad that we dumped it." There were more ideas for the car too. Its role in the game also changed during development, along with its graphics, as mentioned by lead designer Matt Norton. The car was originally going to be powered by fusion or fission or something nifty and nuclear, something that would allow us to not have to worry about running out of gas, and those big tanks in the back were representative of this big bulky power source that was bolted onto the back of a 57 Chevy. We had thought at one starry-eyed point that the car would be something that you could upgrade with more speed, armor, weapons, etc., and that it could be a more important part of the game. Well, the engine and programmer tasking weren't up to the idea of having a moving vehicle in the game, so all of that went out the window. One of the most well-known and recognizable hallmarks of every Fallout game is the narration done by Ron Perlman. During the game over sequences, you would be treated to one of the selection of lines to fit. There were also plans to have a series of more light-hearted lines included, but they were either cut from the game or never recorded. These lines included, "You're dead. Again. Boy, you are stupid. And dead. Ha 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 ha. You're dead, moron. And you're dead. Maybe you should start the game over with a different character. Your point allocation sucks." Interestingly, some of the cut content from Fallout 2 was later used in the New Vegas DLC Old World Blues, such as the toaster from the EPA building and a malfunctioning hologram that was supposed to appear there. The lobotomite enemies that roamed the area were also intended to appear in Fallout 2, as explained by designer Leon Boyarsky, while talking about a loading screen from the first game. Jason and I had already done a first draft of the story for Fallout 2, and at one point the player was to be ambushed by lobotomized creatures, lobotomites, when a renegade Brotherhood soldier comes to his rescue. Get it? It's Fallout Tales number 2, and it was an illustration of a scene from Fallout 2. Of course, the story was changed after Fallout 1 was released, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. This is in reference to one of the loading screens from the original Fallout depicting issue number 2 of a Fallout comic book. Being issue number 2, it was intended to foreshadow the events of the second game, but because the story was changed between the first game's release and development of the second game, it didn't match up in the way that it was originally intended to. Unfortunately, that's all we've got for you today, but be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and follow us on Facebook and Twitter for future content. And for more interesting trivia, check out VGFacts.com. And hey, if you want something a little bit happier, you can always have a look at my stuff on my channel. I did recently a top 10 snow levels list, my personal top 10 favourite snow levels. It's a bit happier than Fallout. So, and it's a bit Christmassy, because Christmas is over, so post-Christmas you might want a bit of a Christmassy lift, because it's the beginning of I don't know. It's up to you. Yeah.